test that out. Oh,
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen here.
yep, that all works. Okay, cool.
Okay.
And it's 3:30. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the next webinar in our webinar series. And today we're going to be covering Zapier. And Zapier's a feature that's pretty cool in that it allows you to connect Check Cherry to a lot of different other apps. And Matt's going to walk through I guess some common use cases, how it might work, how you might use it, that type of thing. Um, I would say it's kind of more of an advanced feature, right? Like not everybody uses Zapier.
Mhm.
But if there's something that you want to get data out or into Check Cherry, Zapier is going to be your best bet in all likelihood to automate that. So, Matt, I guess I'll let you take it away and kind of
Yeah,
share.
absolutely.
One more thing is if you guys have questions, just chat, add a chat, we'll read them, that type of thing, or raise your hand or something of that nature. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like Judd said, the way I usually describe Zapier is it lets different apps, different web apps talk to each other. So if you've got another tool you like using, Zapier is a great way to kind of connect them together. Sometimes I'll have, people ask like, oh, what can I do with Zapier? What do people do with Zapier? And to some extent, I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Where I would start is like, hey, I've got another app that I really want to use. How can I tie that to Check Cherry? And so, we see things like mailing list software. If you use something like a MailChimp or Active Campaign, things like that, people will use Zapier to automatically add their leads to their to MailChimp. Staffing tools. Sometimes you just want the data in Google Sheets. Maybe if you use another CRM, if you've got a more of a sales heavy workflow and you need to send your leads off to something like a HubSpot or a Pipedrive or things like that, you can do that. So I would say in terms of just kind of getting ideas and seeing some things that you can do, the page on Zapier's website is actually pretty good about that. If you just kind of Google, Check Cherry Zapier and look for the Zapier page that comes up there, um, it'll talk a little bit about, some things that other Check Cherry customers are doing. So these are, apps that other Check Cherry customers are using. So we see MailChimp, Lead Connector, I'm not familiar with that one. Monday, a project management tool. Lots of different options. So Google Contacts, you might want to have your customers going into your Google, just directly onto your device, which could be kind of cool. So lots of different options. And then if you kind of keep scrolling down, you'll see specific use cases that people are doing. So, if you want to add Check Cherry leads as MailChimp subscribers, you might even be able to click try it and, they might do a lot of the setup for you. But, if you kind of go through that list, you can get lots of ideas for, adding to Wave, which is another accounting software that we don't have a direct integration with and things like that. So tons of different options. And so what I'm going to try to do today is just do a real kind of basic setup. Kind of show what Zapier looks like, how you connect Check Cherry, how to just kind of get started with it. So it can get complicated. I mean, Zapier is almost, it's pretty much a full programming type of thing. So there are people that just do Zapier all day and charge for it and do consulting in it. So it can get complicated, but if what you're looking to do is pretty straightforward, then it's a great option. So a couple ways you can kind of get started with it. Probably the easiest is if you start within your Check Cherry account and you go to business settings and then integrations. We've got lots of integrations in there, but toward the bottom right, you'll see the Zapier integration. And if you click that, it's going to take you right over to Zapier. Before I do that, one other thing I want to kind of call out, you'll see below that there's a little panel that says some integrations require this API key. Zapier is one of those integrations. So we are going to need to copy this API key at some point. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then I'm going to connect with Zapier. And I get a little message saying, hey, you've been invited to use Check Cherry, accept and build a Zap. And so I'm pretty sure if I go over to my apps now, I think I was probably already connected. So let me disconnect that just so we can kind of see it from scratch here. Okay, let's refresh here. Okay, so Check Cherry's gone. So let's do this the manual way. Let's say I either click that link on Check Cherry's website, or I just search for Check Cherry on Zapier. It's going to have me connect. And basically what it's going to do, it's going to have me enter that API key. So from Check Cherry account, go to Manage, Business Settings, Integrations, and copy the API key. So let's do that. And now I'm connected to Check Cherry. Within Zapier, most of, their navigation is kind of over on the left here. And you can see everything you're connected with by clicking this little app symbol. If you take your mouse away, it kind of hides, so it's a little bit hidden. But if you click that, you can see everything you're connected with. The next thing I'm going to do is connect to something else. So in this case, I'm going to basically do an integration where I'm going to have the leads that come into my Check Cherry account go into MailChimp. So let's go ahead and go back to my apps. We're going to go ahead and connect to my MailChimp account here. And we've got MailChimp. Let's go ahead and click connect. And this one, they're having me log in to MailChimp. So let's log into my account. And they've got a message, you're giving Zapier access to your MailChimp. We'll allow that. And I'm all set. So now if I go back to my apps, I've got Check Cherry, I've got MailChimp. And so, so we're basically at the point now where we can start connecting them. So in Zapier, kind of the way to think about what you're going to be doing is you're going to create what's called a Zap, which is basically I don't know how to describe it, but these are basically what ties different things together. And so when I create a Zap, it's kind of like a workflow where I'm defining, when one thing happens, I want something else to happen. So let's go ahead and create a new Zap. And they've got this new Copilot beta stuff where, you can tell it via AI to, exactly what you want to do. And maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. I haven't really played with it, but we're going to do it the old-fashioned way for now. And so, so I'm going to ignore this. And instead, what I'm going to do is click this trigger. So select the event that starts your Zap. And what I'm going to do is basically tell Zapier, like when I want something to happen, like what should be the trigger? What should, start the process? And so we're going to start with Check Cherry. What we want to do is when a lead comes into Check Cherry, so you'll see a number of different options in here. This one, new lead is added to Check Cherry. Anytime a lead is added to Check Cherry, I want to add that to my MailChimp. So let's go ahead and click that. And then we'll click continue. Because I already linked my account, I'm all logged in, but you can change if you've got, multiple accounts, multiple logins, you can change that if you want to. And then it's going to come to a place where it says test your trigger. We started collecting leads in your Check Cherry account, so let's click test. And what that's going to do is basically just pull some sample leads from our Check Cherry account. So if I go back over to my Check Cherry account and I go to sales and leads, I've got this Sam76 at checkcherry.com. So go back to Zapier here. So that's what it pulled in. And so the first name Sam, last name Test, pulled in a full phone number. So that's all great. So let's continue with that. Now, basically, Zapier is going to ask me, okay, now that I have that data, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, what's the next step? And so in this case, we're going to click MailChimp, and we're going to choose an event. And what we're going to do is, let's see here. We want to add add or update a subscriber. So we'll click continue. And again, I already logged into MailChimp, so we're good there. And now I'm going to have a bunch of different kind of options to fill in. So they want me to pick an audience. Looks like I've only got one option there. They want me to enter a subscriber email. So I'm going to click that. And here's where I can basically pick the data that's coming from Check Cherry via Zapier. And so all of the different fields that are associated with that lead, we're sending those over to Zapier. And so now I can say, okay, this is the subscriber email. Let me use that. I can set a status, in this case, subscribed. And the specifics here are going to be different. For every app, they're going to have different fields, different options. And, in the case of MailChimp, I can decide, like, do I want a double opt-in or not? I'm going to leave that off. Double opt-in is where basically it sends an email to the person asking if they're okay to receive further emails. There's this option, do I want to update existing? We'll just kind of leave that as the default for now. And then if I keep going, then I see some more fields that Check Cherry sends over. So first name, we'll go ahead and send that. We'll send a last name. Let's see. If we have like an address, we might want to send the address. We might not. We're probably not collecting an address for these. A phone number. We definitely have that. And then there's some other fields, company name. I think that's something that Check Cherry has. Let's use the search here. Yeah, company name. And then birthday, that's not something you would typically be collecting. So we're going to leave that blank. And so once we enter everything, have everything kind of mapped how we want, we'll click continue. And we'll basically have another, just kind of a preview of what's going to be sent. So that all seems reasonable. We'll click test. And so it claims to be sending a subscriber to MailChimp. Let's take a quick look at our MailChimp account and make sure that worked. And so let's see here. Where's my audience? All contacts. And so now that I'm in my MailChimp account, sure enough, I see that Sam76 at checkcherry.com. The first name came over, last name came over, and the phone number came over. So, so everything looks great. One last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give this a name. If I can figure out how, we'll rename that. We'll call it Check Cherry to MailChimp, or maybe we'll say Check Cherry leads to MailChimp. Click publish. And that'll take just a moment. And now I've got, if I go to my Zaps, it should show up. There we go. I've got my new Check Cherry leads to MailChimp, and it's running. If I needed to turn that off for any reason, I can just click this toggle here. But basically, now anytime a new lead comes into my Check Cherry account, it should get added to MailChimp. So let's go ahead and try it out. We'll go back to Check Cherry here. We'll go to business settings. We'll go to leads. And we'll just fill in one of these forms. So we've got a few different forms on the website. So we'll do Matt, Goatcher, Check Cherry, Matt. We'll give it yeah, and I'm going to leave the rest of this stuff blank because it doesn't really apply. And so I submitted that. And so hopefully in MailChimp, I should see my new lead come through in a minute. And it might take a minute or two. We still got just about 5. So let's go to Zapier and see. One thing you can do with Zapier too is if you click on your Zap, you can see kind of a history of what's gone on. So if I click over on the left here, it's got a number of different options. You can see kind of a history of what's been changed, things like that. But the one that's really useful is this little clock symbol, which will show Zap runs. So like basically when that when that Zapier thing ran. So let's refresh. And for some reason, I'm not seeing any yet. There's also a Zap history that has everything.
I like this though, because this is like really what happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like, wait a minute, it's not working. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Help
So
me.
you make it as easy as you possibly can, and then inevitably, so that's okay, finally. So sometimes it takes a little while. Usually it's pretty quick, but sometimes there's a minute or two of a delay. And so we can see, okay, Check Cherry leads to MailChimp. That's what I named it. We've got our timestamp, August 27th at 3:45. And then if I click it, it'll show me even more data, what was sent over to, I think this is what came from Check Cherry. And then they'll show us, what was sent to MailChimp. So hopefully if we go back to MailChimp now, instead of having the 5 contacts, let's refresh again. And sure enough, now I've got my 6 contacts. So I guess the tip there is to be patient. It might take a minute or two before it shows up. And if I click on that, no, I don't want to give feedback. I've got the email matches, the first name matches, the last name matches, and the phone number. So basically everything that I mapped over is showing up. So, so in a nutshell, that's the type of thing you can do with Zapier. It's not overly hard. Most of the work is kind of figuring out how to map those fields to from one thing to another. So as kind of a next example, I'm going to go the other way. So you can send stuff, from Check Cherry into MailChimp, but you can also go the other way too. You can also take stuff from outside, from other applications you're using and put that into Check Cherry. And so the process is going to be real similar. We'll start with a different application instead. So to do that, let's do a Google. So Google Forms is a tool that basically just kind of lets you set up different surveys and collect information. I set up a real simple, just kind of a sample contact form. You probably wouldn't really use Google Forms for this, but I like it because it's an easy way to kind of test and get familiar with things. And so I just set up a real basic Google form with a few questions: first name, last name, email address, and phone. And what we want to do is we want to get this sample contact form, this Google form data, into Check Cherry. So to do that, we're going to go back to Zapier. We're going to make sure Google Forms is connected. And so it looks like I've already connected that. If I hadn't, it would just be a matter of searching for Google Forms and connecting it. When I do that, it's going to have me log into my Google account. And now we're going to create a new Zap. If I click that, again, we can, feel free to try out the Copilot stuff. I could see it working pretty well on this type of thing, but for now, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to click a trigger. We're going to say Google Forms. And now they're going to have us choose from one of these events. So they've got a couple of options here. So new form response, new or updated form response. And that can basically be useful. Like say somebody filled out the same form multiple times. How do you want to handle that? Do you want to create new leads each time, or do you want to, just kind of update the existing one? So it doesn't really matter what you choose. And so we'll click continue. And then the trigger is going to be, or I'm sorry, it's asking for the form now. So in my Google account, I've got multiple Google Forms. So I'm going to click this one called sample contact form and click continue. And so this is one thing I like that I think Zapier does well, is giving you test data. And so again, they're going to let us test and pull in some test data to get everything set up. And so in this case, they just pulled in some sample data that it looks like Google is sending, just as, that Google's sending. So joe.doe@gmail.com and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and continue with selected record. And what we want to do next is send that into Check Cherry. And so What we're going to do, we're going to create a lead and click continue. And again, it's going to have me log in. I've already done that. And now is where I can start mapping my fields. And so it's real similar. As you use different applications, you'll start to see, real similar patterns. So we'll choose the first name here. We'll choose the last name. We'll get did I have a company? No company name, so we'll leave that blank. We'll get the email address. And the search is real helpful too. A lot of times I forget to use that until the end, but the search can be real helpful. And so Check Cherry has all kinds of other fields. These don't really correspond to anything that was on my form, so I'm just going to leave all this blank. But should give you an idea of the different types of data that you can send over to Check Cherry. And then I think you can even send custom fields. So if you do have custom fields in your account, in your Check Cherry account, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to send those as well. But we'll go ahead and click continue. And then we're going to test step. And so it's sending a lead to Check Cherry. And so, we got an error. So let's see here. That's not super easy to read. And so, it's saying email is invalid. So sometimes, the way it gives you errors back is not super user-friendly. But if you expand it, a lot of times you can kind of see, something in there that gives you a hint. So for some reason, the email on this was invalid. So let's see here. Oh, and if I look at my data, my email field is not an email address. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and skip the test for now. And click publish. Okay, cool. So now if I go back to my Zaps, again, they seem to be a little bit slow about updating things today, but if I refresh, I've got my new Untitled Zap. And just to make things a little bit more clear, I'm going to go in and rename that again. So this one is going to be Google Forms to Check Cherry. And the changes were saved. Let's go back to the Zaps. And cool. So I've got my Google Forms to Check Cherry now. So now let's try filling out that Google form. So this time I'm going to, how do I fill this thing out? Let's see. We'll copy this link here and fill it out. So I'm Matt, Goatcher, so we'll go ahead and submit that. And so my response has been recorded. And then let's find my Zaps. And so if I go look at this Zap, if I look at my Zap runs, excuse me. Fresh. So we'll give it a minute here. You also have this Zap history that'll show absolutely everything in your account. There we go. So Google Forms to Check Cherry. So again, I'm going to go ahead and click that. We can see some of the data that was sent in. And then we can take a look at Check Cherry. And hopefully I have a lead here. And sure enough, so Matt plus Google test at checkcherry.com and a phone number. And so that's kind of the gist of what you're able to do with Zapier. You'll notice that it's always in response to something. So Zapier doesn't necessarily help you, like say you decide that you want to set up this automation with MailChimp. Zapier is not going to import all of your existing leads into MailChimp. To do that, you're probably going to want to start with, something like a report on the Check Cherry side where you download all of your lead data or you download your client list or something like that to get started. But what Zapier is going to be real good for is keeping it in sync as time goes on. And the other thing I want to look at is, not sure where to find this. So
Matt, real quick, can I ask,
Yep,
can I read
absolutely.
Gerald's
Please
question? Okay.
do. Yep.
So Gerald says, can you have a specific Check Cherry brand lead, so a lead for a brand, go to separate MailChimp list, i.e. one contact for a photo booth goes to one list, one and a different contact form for DJ services goes to a different mailing list.
Yeah. So what you could do, couple ways to do that. So depending if you're wanting to put are you wanting to put the data into Check Cherry or take it out of Check Cherry?
I think he wants to put it in,
Okay.
No, actually,
So
I want to do the other thing. If somebody puts a lead in, I want them to be able to, like, if they're on a photo booth brand, it goes into a photo booth list. If they're on a DJ brand, it goes into the DJ list. So it's not just throwing everybody into one.
Perfect. Yeah. So what you could do, a couple ways you could do that. I don't know if, depending on whether you have all in the same MailChimp account or not, there might be a couple ways you might do a task like that. But in Check Cherry, as you're kind of setting up your automation, we're going to send, let's see here, click continue. We're going to send a lot of different things here. And one of the fields that we do send is the brand. And so we'll send both the brand ID and a brand name. You can use whichever one of those kind of works best. As far as how you're going to map that, kind of two ways I could think about it. Assuming it was all within the same MailChimp account, when you're going through and mapping your fields, see if they've got like replace groups. Yeah, so I'm not sure. So with MailChimp, I think they have the concept of groups. I'm not sure if that's something that that maps well. Do you know what a group is or here we go, tags. That's probably
I think you want to use tags is what I would do.
And so I think so they say no tags are available. I'm not sure if I need to create the tags in MailChimp first or not. I might be able to just say this and basically tag it with the brand name. And so let's see what happens if I do that. We'll retest step. And so let's see if we look at Sam's record here. And so now we've got this Rainier tag applied to it. And so I'm pretty sure in MailChimp, you can basically set up kind of rules for your audiences that, hey, if they've got the Rainier tag, I want them to get these messages.
Yeah.
The other way you might also do it, Zapier has kind of some built-in functions. And so the built-in tools are there's some pretty cool ones. So one of them is filter, and you can also do things like formatting, some kind of like conditional paths. But what you could do is you could say, okay, I want to filter, and then basically choose some filter conditions. So let's look for that brand. And this time I'm just going to use the brand ID because I know that won't change even if I rename the business. And so I'm going to say brand is exactly matches, and I think that number was, or I could just search for it again. And so only continue if the brand ID exactly matches 197. And let's see, update to continue.
So I could just set up two of them, one that would push it one way if that condition.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And then I'm not sure why it won't let me continue here. But obviously I'm missing something here, but basically that's kind of the gist of what you would do. The other way you could do it too, they have the filter will let you kind of like filter it out, and so you could have two different zaps. It's a little more complicated, but they've also got what are called paths in Zapier, and a path is kind of like basically like a kind of like an if else condition. And so you could add a path where you say, okay, let me split into path 1 and path 2. And then instead of let's see here. How do I set my conditions? Oh, I'm broken apparently. Let's refresh here. Let's try that again. Make it a little bit bigger.
Good times.
Right. So we'll set up a path, and what we'll do, okay, here we go. Here's the path conditions. And then you're going to do kind of that same thing. You're going to say, okay, on this brand, I want to do, and then, set my MailChimp account up with whatever settings. And then else, I'm going to do kind of the same thing over in this other path. And so that'll give you kind of like an if-else type of thing. And you can even do like, 10 different paths there if you had a bunch of different brands or things like that. So
that solved the problem right there. Yep, that'll work. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I think on some of these, right, like maybe it'd be helpful to have common integrations so people don't have to use Zapier long term. That being said, it's pretty powerful stuff. And it's funny because I went to ChatGPT and I was like, oh, give me some ideas of how to use Zapier with my CRM. And it's like all stuff Check Cherry already does. And, lead follow up and task, automation. We already do a lot of this stuff. Automated review request. And I think like a lot of times, like if there's another service that you want to connect Check Cherry, I think that's where you got to start. If Check Cherry doesn't do something, like we had somebody doing postcards, that's something we probably won't offer. Postcard, thank yous or marketing type stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Couple of things. If you do Google that Zapier Check Cherry, one of the things that's real helpful to see either with Check Cherry or with other applications you're looking at are basically what they call like the triggers or the actions. And that'll give you a pretty good idea of like what types of things you can do. And so if you look at Check Cherry's triggers, it's based on, kind of when an event comes in, when something is complete, you might want to send out, a thank you note, or a physical thank you card like a week after or something, after an event is marked as complete, or when a new booking comes in, you might want to do something. Kind of for historical reason, these are still called events, but on Check Cherry's side, they would be called bookings. When a lead comes in, when a payment is recorded, with your users, that can be customers, but that can also be staff. You can do things based on proposals, and then you can do things based on when a staff is assigned to a booking. And then similarly, if you're thinking of integrating with something else, I'd recommend, finding their Zapier page and kind of seeing what types of actions they support, because that'll give you a good idea of kind of how you can tie the data together. Some things that Zapier doesn't do that, it's just not really suited for. Zapier is not going to help you like change Check Cherry. Like if you wanted to, change how Check Cherry looks, or like have something happen within Check Cherry, like itself, have like a different, user interface, add a new feature to Check Cherry. It's not really going to do anything like that. It's strictly going to be more around like kind of tying it to a different service that
just moving data back and forth between services. Yeah. That's you map it over and all that stuff. Daniel's got a question. He said, would there be a way to add a DJ music request system to Check Cherry? Clients adds and looks up songs they want, and it stores the data in their account. So Daniel, this is not a Zapier question, I'm assuming, right? You just want to have it. It's a feature request of Check Cherry. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that, because he hasn't got back to us. But I mean, I guess to answer.
Yeah. So
hello. So
Hey,
hey. So what I'm looking to do is I have a bunch of music, I have a bunch of songs in a list, like say a spreadsheet, right? And I want to take that and I want to put it into either Check Cherry or use something so that like a database of music. I want to be able to have the client be able to look up their song, add the song to their specific account in Check Cherry. Is that a Check Cherry thing, or is there something like a way of importing lists and then doing something like, say, you take a Billboard list of tunes, right? And is there a way to import it? Is that into Check Cherry, or is that part of a Zapier thing?
Yeah, so I don't know that Zapier is going to help you a lot with that. If you did have another tool that you're using, I'm trying to remember some, there's a couple of popular ones out there. My mind is blanking at the moment. If you did have a tool out there that that does something like that, you might be able to set up an automation where when a new booking comes into Check Cherry, you could set it up to kind of send that data over to the other software program you're using to do that. As far as currently, we don't really have like a music database feature. We've got some stuff internal that, I'm hoping we'll have something there in the future that'll be pretty cool. But at this time, you would be, other than like maybe in your email, you could send them a link to your song list or things like that, or maybe include some info in the questionnaire itself. But it would be pretty static. We don't really have like a song database built in at this time. So I don't know that Zapier will do much other than if you do have a tool like that you like that does that already.
Well, is there a way that you can actually pull data in from another external source, kind of like what you did with MailChimp? So say, you know what I'm saying? So say, for example,
you can pull in, yes, but only certain data. So you can pull in, it's very like, basically in Zapier, like when we're kind of setting it up, like we have to map exactly, everything kind of has to be mapped exactly. So like if Check Cherry doesn't already do it, it probably, Zapier doesn't really help it, make it easier for us to do or anything like that. But when we do have like a song list feature or something like that, that would give us an opportunity to kind of give an easy way to do it or something. So yeah.
So I would have to then use another CRM just for that one feature. That's what I'm kind of trying to avoid because I like Check Cherry. So
yeah, it's possible. I mean, no software is perfect, right? And I think some customers use it's Vibo's, I think what Matt was thinking.
Vibo, thank you. Yeah.
Vibo with Check Cherry for their song list stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly lots of opportunity for improvement at Check Cherry all around. We do have the Spotify stuff. I mean, have you seen that? Does that work for you?
Have not seen that. No.
So you can use Spotify and import a playlist and have your customer use Spotify to like build a playlist and then just give you a URL. That's one option. And then what else do we integrate with, Matt, on the music service providers?
Just Spotify. Yeah, we actually,
Okay. So I have a question for you. So basically you're allowing the user to go on to their own Spotify account, right?
Yep.
And build their song list there.
Yep.
And then it will send a link to that list in their account in Check Cherry, so you can click it and see what kind of their vibe is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just basically storing a link. It's a fancy way of storing a link, a playlist that they've created on their account in the booking.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not quite like say if I had a Google sheet or something with the data already like 10 songs in the Google list, right? And then they could search that list and say, I like this one, and they click on it and it builds a list within their account. There's nothing, you don't have anything like that.
No, you can't upload your own music list and then have them pick kind of among that. And I'm curious, is it just songs you own on your list?
Yes. Yeah, like if I have my own libraries and it's just so for example, like if you give if they want to what do you call it? They want to add on a song that's not on your list, right? Or is totally in left field, right? Legally, you have to be able to purchase that some way in order to play it, right? So it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah,
I guess
it's kind
yeah,
of a good
okay.
question for maybe go into the Facebook group and ask the other DJs. It does come up as a feature request. Seems like less than you would think, right? Would you agree, Matt?
Yeah, we've actually, like I said, we've got we kind of went down the road and we've even got some internal stuff that in that direction. Kind of the challenge we've run into is getting being able to have any kind of like a music preview. Once they know that DJs are involved, they don't, they don't want to approve us for having
Well,
any kind of strong previews. So
here's the thing though about that music preview.
mhm.
I don't really need to have them preview the songs in
Yeah,
my
so we may
filling out the
do
thing.
a version without that if it comes to that. But basically, yeah, I know exactly what you want. It's something we've got some, internal stuff on, but I don't have a launch date
Right.
on it yet. So yeah.
We get it though.
It's coming. Yeah, I just don't know
Rosie's got
the
a
final
question
feature
too.
and when
Can,
yes.
Rosie says, can we use Zapier to connect to DocuSign? I need a customer contract with features not available in Check Cherry. And I think the question would be, does DocuSign have, the first thing you want to do is, does DocuSign have a Zapier integration? That's the first thing you want to look up. And then kind of from there, you got to like decide like, okay, well, like what do I need to wire up, so to speak? And Rosie, maybe you can tell us what features you're looking for that are in DocuSign.
Sure. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
having the webinar. So in my instance, I need a contract that allows me the ability to have the client initial specific areas so that they are actually attesting on their contract that they are understanding the liabilities that they incur. So Check Cherry today doesn't allow me to do that.
Mhm.
I don't recall if Check Cherry allows me to like bold font, different text types to be able to call things out, but ultimately I'm gonna need a initial no matter what. If I do it through DocuSign, I can format the contract there, have those initials automated. Basically, when I book a deal, I want the contract from DocuSign, like out of Check Cherry through Zapier out to DocuSign, and then it can come back into the client's account.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, is that a legal requirement or a business preference?
Both.
So if they don't initial, it's not enforceable?
If they don't initial, it's not enforceable.
Yeah. So if you have a section in the contract that people don't initial, is it still enforceable in your state?
Not according to my accountant. I mean, not according to my attorney.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's interesting. It's not feedback we get a lot. We have talked about doing kind of call outs and initials. I guess we'll see. How many initials? I'm just curious, like in a contract do you have?
So it's
5, 10, 2, 20,
between 5 and 10.
5 and 10. Yeah. Yeah, we want it to be easy to use. I think that's
And so DocuSign does make it super easy because if somebody, whether they read it or not, they can always skip to the portion of, I don't know if you've done a DocuSign.
No, yeah, we're familiar.
They can let you skip and you just get to the point of where you need to initial if you've had the conversation or whatever. But in Check Cherry, it's a little bit too broad. There's a lot of details in our contracts specific to the different lines of businesses that we have. I want to be able to address those.
Right. And I think this is a good use case, right? Yeah, Check Cherry doesn't do it, so use Zapier to kind of bring in something else.
Yeah, and you may be able to. So what I would say, kind of on the Zapier side, you would probably start with something like, if I go back to my Zaps, it would be kind of like this Check Cherry leads to MailChimp workflow where, the first step is like when a booking comes into Check Cherry or something like that, and then and then I'll want to select the DocuSign things after that. What it's going to kind of come down to is whether it's not clear to me, like looking at their page, whether they let you kind of pre-fill in stuff within the document, or if they're just only letting you like, send a subject. Like all I see is like a recipient and a name. We do send pretty much everything associated with the booking. So like we send the name, the venue, all of the details will be there on our side. It just kind of depends if they let you like map them or not. If they do, then I think it should work fine. But if it's kind of like they only have like 4 or 5 fields like this, then you might not be able to.
I can look into it. That's not a problem. I think the follow-up question to that would be then, if this was a solution that was viable for me, would I be able to suppress the contract that's in Check Cherry so we don't have like a duplicate, whether it's in the proposal or something else?
Yeah, you can, I mean, you can leave it blank or just have like kind of a one line, oh, we'll send your contract, separately via DocuSign or, I think you can even leave it blank if you really wanted to. And then,
I think you just made me realize that I could probably in that line then just put in the URL for the DocuSign and have them go straight there.
Yeah, it'll kind of break the flow a little bit if they're clicking off site, but potentially you could, something like, well, we'll send you the DocuSign here and then and kind of have some instructions or just letting them know that what's coming up. You can also have maybe a more simplified version that because there still is probably something you want them to that, hey, I acknowledge that that my that this is a proposal, and until I sign the full document that or that I'm going to have additional terms or things like that. You may still want them to have even just a paragraph or something, just something simplified to fill out as well.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's no other questions, and so I mean, I guess if there's anything else, feel free to like hop in and chat or say something. But I mean, I think, is Zapier for everyone, Matt?
No. And it's it does take a while to kind of figure out what how it works, and then there's definitely every app is different. Everything you want to tie to like what they support, what's even possible with Zapier certainly varies. So
Yeah,
so it definitely doesn't do anything, but if you are trying to kind of get some data from one app to another, it works real well for that sort of thing.
and every business is different, and we've even seen people do stuff like, so Check Cherry is not strong on what I'd refer to as like sales automation or sales CRM, where it's like, oh, send this lead this email, and if they do this, do this, and if they do that, and all that stuff. And so we've had some people use Zapier to push data out to kind of more of a traditional CRM. We've had, like I mentioned, the postcards as thank yous. I think kind of the mass email is the most common use case. QuickBooks now we have an integration.
Yeah. Project management, things like Trello or Monday or Slack.
Yeah. And always we're open to feedback. So chat with us, with what you need. We're listening. And there's just, there's a lot of ways we can improve Check Cherry. And this is kind of just priorities, and then kind of figuring out how to do it in a way that's going to be smooth and easy and easy to use, I suppose, as much as possible. I'm trying to think what else we've seen on the Zapier stuff, but I think, I want to get my data to or from another app, with Check Cherry.
We don't have a Google Sheets is another one we'll see sometimes where, they have a kind of a Google Sheet with a bunch of calculations for different things. I've seen that type of thing before too.
But Check Cherry really does a lot. Like I said, I did a chat GPT kind of like to give me some ideas, and it was all stuff that you can already do with our automated messages, more or less, right? So it wasn't anything, really. I mean, obviously, like I didn't mention mass email, but yeah. So, any other questions out there? Anything else you want to show off, Matt?
I think that's about all I got. So
yeah. So chat with us if you ever have questions, of course, with Check Cherry. We'll be doing another webinar soon, and we'll send out emails. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it, Matt. Great job. Thank you very much for doing that. And have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.